In mathematics, there's a topic called divisibility rule. It can also be called the divisibility test. Okay? The divisibility rule in mathematics is a quick and easy approach to see if an integer is divisible by a fixed divisor without having to divide it, usually by looking at its digits. Mathematics is not easy, especially when it comes to the tricky and then the shorthand, formula and stuff like that. Math is not easy. So in this video, I'm going to show you division rules or test for divisibility of numbers 1 to 12. For example, the divisibility rule for 12 helps us to know which numbers are completely divided by 12. Some numbers like 2, 3, 4, and 5 have rules which can be understood easily, while 7 and 11 are a little complex. Now, what is going to be the benefit of the learners? Now, learning the divisibility rule or test for divisibility allows pupils, learners, or students solve problems faster and easily. And at the same time, it makes students score better marks in their examination. So now I need you to get your pen and paper. Do not forget to subscribe to this channel. Turn on the notification bell so that YouTube can give you first-hand videos from Knowledge is Found by Oladejaka, and comment on this video so that YouTube can show it to other learners. Let's continue. Welcome back. The divisibility rules. These rules let you test if one number is divisible by another without having to do too much calculations. Okay? Now, I'm going to explain some terminologies. Okay, so we need to be on the same page. Now, what do we mean when we say divisible by or divided by? Okay, now this means when you divide one number by another number, okay, the result is a whole number. I get my point. So when the result isn't a whole number, then division hasn't taken what place, or it is not correct. Let me put it that way. Okay, now one thing I need to point out here is, now 0 is divisible by any number except by itself. Okay, so when I say 0 divided by 7 or 0 divided by 5, the answer is always what? 0. Okay, 0 isn't divisible by itself. Okay, all right, so any number divided by 0 is a yes, or it means yes. The divisibility test for 0 when it's divided by another number is yes. Okay, now let's cite an example. 21 is divisible by 7. Why is 21 divisible by 7? 7 is a factor of 21. 7 will divide 21 3 times and there won't be any remainder. 3 is a whole number, so 7 is divisible, so 21 is divisible by 7. Now let's look at a number that at the end of the division you would have something not exact. For example, when you have 30, now is 30 divisible by 7? No, 30 isn't divisible by 7 because 7 will divide 30 remaining some numbers. Okay, so that is not a proper division. Okay, do you all understand? Okay, so now let's go into the divisibility test for real. Now, okay, test for divisibility of 1. Any integer is divisible by 1. Any integer apart from fractions. Okay, any integer, any number is divisible by 1. That's very simple. So 3 divided by 1 gives you 3. 4 divided by 1 gives you what? 4. 3 and 4 are all whole numbers. So that's how to test for 1 or divisibility of what? 1. So we're moving to 2. Test for divisibility of 2. Now, how do you know that 2 divides a number without a remainder? It means that the last digit is always even. Even numbers from 0 to 4, 6, 8, and so on and so forth. Okay, so when you have a number like, for example, 134, yes, that this number is divisible by 2. Why? Because the last digit in this number is even and then can be divided by what? 2 without a remainder. Okay, are you following it very well? Okay, now so let's test for 3. So we're testing for 3. Okay, so the sum of the digits is divisible by 3. This is test for divisibility of 3. Now, to test if a number would divide, to test if 3 would divide a number, okay, we need to add the numbers together. If the sum of that number gives you what is divisible by 3, then we say that number is completely divisible by what? 3. For example, let's take an example to explain these things. Now, when you have 294, for example, so I'm going to add 294. I'm going to sum the digit up. So I'm having 2 plus 9 plus 4. It gives 15. Okay, and then 15, as we all know, is a factor. 15 can be divided by what? 3. 3 is a factor of 15, and the answer is what? 5. So yes. Okay, let's look at another one. 106. So when you have 106, you're going to add the digits together. You're going to have 1 plus 0 plus 6, and that gives 7. 3 won't divide 7 evenly. There's going to be a remainder. So that number 106 isn't divisible by what? 3. So these are very easy way to know how to divide numbers very well. Okay, so don't forget about actually teaching you tricks and simplified ways on how to divide numbers, how to solve mathematics in a fast and quicker way. Okay, so now let's move to test for divisibility of 4. Now for 4, it says the last 2 digits are divisible by 4. Okay, let's take an example. Now let's look at 4,316. 4,316, what's the last 2 digits? The last 2 digits is 16, and then we all know 16 can be divided by 4 evenly. Okay, so that number in total is divisible by 4, so that's a yes. Okay, so let's look at this. When you have 5,119, okay, so the last 2 digits is a 19, and 19, 4 won't divide 19 except with a remainder. Okay, so that is a no. So that number 5,119 is not a factor 4. 4 can't divide it even. Okay, so that's about test for divisibility of 4. So now let's look at divisibility of 5. Now divisibility of 5 is very simple. Okay, when the last digit of numbers ends with 0 or 5, it is very easy to know that those numbers or that number can be divided by what? 5. So when you have 20, 30, 25, 35, all these numbers, their last digit ends with either 0 or 5. So that's very simple. So now let's test for 6. Test for divisibility of what? 6. Now, to identify if 6 can divide any number, one thing you must look out for is if the number is an even number. Okay, and if it can be divided by 3. Okay, if the number can be divided by what? 3, such a number is divisible by what? 6. Okay, now for this, the root 2 and root 3 works for the divisibility of 6. Okay, so any number that 2 and 3 can divide, 6 can also divide that number. So let's look at an example. So when you have 114, for example, we are going to add 114 let's sum up the digits together. So you have 1 plus 1 plus 4, and that's 6. Okay, 6 in 6 gives you what? 1. So 6 can divide 114. That is a yes. Okay, let's say something like 308. 308, if you add the digits together, you have 11, and 11 is a number such that 6 won't divide it except with a remainder. Okay, so that is a no. Alright, I hope I'm clear. Okay, now test for divisibility of 7. Now remember, 7, 11, 13, and so on are a little bit complex, so you might want to listen attentively and write something out here. Now, the divisibility of 7. Now listen. It says double the last digit and subtract it from a number made by the other digit. Then the result must be divisible by what? 7. Okay, so let's go into an example to explain this theory. Okay, now it will be much more easier when we explain using figures. Alright, so when you have something like 672, for example, 672. Now remember, it says you should double the last digit and then take it out of the remaining number. So we're going to split 672 to be 67 minus the double of 2, which is 4. So 67 minus 4, that gives us what? 63. Okay, and then 63 can be divided by 7 in 6 places. Okay, so another way you can even keep subtracting. Okay, so when you have something like, when you have 63, you have 63, so we are going to okay, so that's it. Now another example is 105. Now let's look at it. 105. So we're going to separate it to be 10 and 5. So we're going to double the 5, which is the last digit of the number. 5 becomes 10. Okay, so we're going to take away 10 from 10, and then you are going to have 0. So 0 divided by 6 is equal to what? 0. Okay, so it's easy. Yes, don't forget, we say 0, a number divided by 0 gives you 0, and that's for real. That's actually the answer. If you are listening to me from the beginning of the video, you understand that I told you that I said 0 is divisible by any number except by its what? Self. Okay, so we get a yes when 0 divides any number. That is correct. Okay, so another one, let's look at something like 305. So if you have 305, if we double the last digit 5, it gives what? 10. Okay, and then you take 10 away from 30, you're gonna have 20. So 20 cannot be divided by 7. So that number 305 is not divisible by what? 7. So it's very simple. Okay, you can see, very simple. So you can try out numbers and then double the last digit and take it away from the rest, and then test if the result is divisible by what? 7. Okay, so now let's go into test for divisibility of 8. Now 8 says the last 3 digits are divisible by 8. The last 3 digits, so you can have 10-digit numbers. Just go look at the last 3 digits. If the last 3 digit number can be divided or is divisible by 8 exactly without a remainder, then that number is a factor of 8, or 8 is a factor of that number, whichever way you understand it. Okay, now let's take an example. 1816. 1816. So I have 4 digits there, so I'm going to filter it into 3. Sorry, I'm going to take out the last 3 digits, which is 816, and then I'm going to divide it by 8 to see if I'm going to have a whole number. Yes, I'm going to have a whole number, 102. So that's a yes. 1816 is divisible by 8. Let's look at another one. When you have 6302, okay, 6302. So I'm going to take 302. I'm going to divide by 8, and boom, I'm going to have a remainder. I'm going to have a remainder of 3. So 8 will divide 302 37 times, remainder what, 3. So that is a no. Okay, so another way you can also do that is to check to divide the number by 2 3 times. Okay, so when you have something like 1816, and then you have 816 divided by 2, that gives you 408. So if you divide 408 divided by 2, it's going to give you 204, and then you can divide 204 by 2, which is going to give you 102, still giving you a whole number. So that is to tell you that that number is divisible by what, 8. And then when you try it with the other number, you are definitely going to have a remainder, and that is a no. Okay, so that is about test 8. Okay, so now we're moving into test 9. Test 9 says the sum of the digits is divisible by 9. The sum of the digits is divisible by 9. It didn't say the sum of the 3 or last or first 3. It says the sum of all the digits is divisible by what, 9. So when you have a number 9261, for example, so we're going to add these numbers. You see, when you add 9 plus 2 plus 6 plus 1, it gives you 18. And then we all know that 18 can be divided by 9 evenly without a remainder. You're going to get a whole number. So that is a yes. The same thing when you have 2013. If you add the numbers together, 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 3, it gives you 6. 6 can be divided by 9 except with a remainder, and that is a what? No. Okay, so that is very simple. And then we go to test for divisibility of 10. That's very simple. When a number ends with 0, 10 can divide that number. That is the same. It's just as simple as 1. When a number ends with just 0, then that number is divisible by what? 10. So when you have 210, fine, it's divided by what? 10. That's very simple. So, but when you have something like when you have the last digit ends with other number except from 0, that number isn't going to be divisible by what? 10. So now I'm going to another one, which is called test for divisibility of 11. Okay, so you might want to listen to this one also too. Now, how do you know that 11 divides any number evenly without a remainder? Is when you look at the theory and then study it and then practice it. Okay, it says here, it says add and subtract digits in an alternating pattern. Okay, add digits, subtract the next digit and the next digit, etc. Continue that way, and then check if the answer is divisible by 11. Okay, so I'm going to put it into practice now. We're going to solve something. For example, when you have 4631, 4631. Now let's test if this number is divisible by 11. Now, how do you know that? What do you do? The first thing you do is we look at the first digit. That's 4. Okay, so we're going to take away 6 from 4. So when you take 6 away from 4, you're going to have -2, and then you're going to add the next number, which is 3, to -2. So 3 plus -2 gives you what? -2 plus 3 gives you 1. Okay, a +1. And then when you take away 1 from 1, you're going to have a 0. Okay, so any number, anytime you divide a number and then it gives you 0, yes, yes, that number is divisible by 11. Okay, all right, so now let's take another one so we don't get confused. Okay, now let's see 319. Okay, 319. Now the first digit is 3, the second digit is 1, and the last digit is what? 9. Okay, so I am going to have 3. I'm going to take away 1 from 3. I'm going to have 2, and I'm going to add 9 to 2, and I'm going to have 11. 11 is divisible by 11, which will give you what? 1. The first one which ends with 0. You know, when you divide 0 by 11, you're going to have 0. Okay, so that's a yes number. Another way you can also do it is to subtract the last digit from the number made by the other digit. If that number is divisible by 11, then the original number is 2. Okay, now for example, when you have 682, now the first thing is to subtract 2 from 68, and then you have 66. 66 is divided by 66 divided by 11 gives you what? 6. Okay, let's take a much bigger number. For example, when you have 20,449. 20,449. Okay, so now listen, we're going to do it very practical. 2, so I'm going to remove the last digit and then take it out of the rest, and then I'm going to have 2,044 minus 9, and the answer gives me 2,035. I'm going to separate the 5 from the digit, so I'm going to have 203 minus 5, and that's going to give me 198. And I'm going to separate 8 from 198. I'm going to take away 8 from 19, and then I'm going to have 11. So 11 is divisible by 11 one time, and that's very correct. Okay, so you keep subtracting by the last digit. Okay, so when you add the last two digits, if the last two digits is divisible by 11, then we say the total number is divisible by what? 11. Alright, and then we move to the last test, which is the test for divisibility of what? 12. And this is very simple. Rule 4 and rule 3 goes with this. The number is divisible by both 3 and 4. If you have a number that is both divisible by 3 and 4, that number can be tested with 12, or that number is tested to be divisible by what? 12. Okay, so when you have a number like 648, let's look at it. So I can add this number together. I can say 6 plus 4 plus 8, that gives me 18. 18 can be divided by 6 and can also be divided by what? 3 at the same time. Okay, so it means that 12 can divide that number without a remainder. Okay, so you can also look at the last two digits. If the last two digits is divisible by 4, then alright, I believe you have learned something in this tutorial video that we are going to show you. So I'm going to research more on the test for divisibility of 13 up to 20, and I'm going to show you on knowledge is fun. I'm going to bring it out on knowledge is fun, so you can practice with these questions. Okay, practice with these questions. Test for 7. Please do not use division, just use divisibility rules. That way it helps you to simplify and be fast in your calculating. Okay, look at these numbers, practice it, finish your paper. I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye. Yeah.